Coming up on Morning Drive, from trick shots to a tartan jacket, find out what you can learn from Wesley Bryan.
Will Ferrell said it best, that escalated quickly.
And we take you behind the scenes with Faraday for a preview of tonight's episode with Mark O'Meara. Find out if David can survive when the two-time major champ takes him on the ride of his life.
Is this a joke? That's just ridiculous.
With the golf world still reeling, find out how the leaders of our game are agreeing and disagreeing on where change is needed.
It's not a good look, man. He'll be on YouTube in about 3, 2, 1.
And we all need a do-over now and again. We're handing out Monday mulligans from this weekend's action. Morning Drive starts now. And a very good Monday morning. Welcome inside Studio AP. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. Gary Williams, our LPGA member, Paige McKenzie, our winner on the PGA Tour, Robert Darman. Did everybody have a good holiday weekend? I mean, we had a legitimate weekend.
Yes, and I got to cook my first Easter dinner. We had some ham and sweet potatoes. It was not terrible, which is a win for me.
Not terrible. I don't know how to interpret that. Robert, how about you? You had a nice weekend?
Also, I had a nice weekend. I made the traditional Easter spaghetti and meatballs. Little off the beaten path.
What tradition is that?
What day is a bad day for spaghetti and meatballs?
No, there is not
none.
one.
There's
there is
none.
not. And from what I understand, you're a good cook. Now, how did some people in the golf community celebrate? Well, here's Justin Leonard. Notice very closely. He wrote, "I've always wanted to do this to the Easter Bunny." That's his whole gang, I would imagine, out in their home in Aspen, Colorado, putting the bunny ears between the bunny ears of the Easter Bunny.
That is very clever. I'll give him props for that. But Gary, he's not the only one that hung out with the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, now, he's got me beat on the vest and the ears, but I think I got him on the britches.
Which one's Gary? Which one's the Easter Bunny?
Yes, and shorter than a bunny. Shorter than everybody. All right, well, what is happening now on this Monday morning? Well, let's start with the young man who likes to wear pink. And real men wear pink, I promise you. And he does it every Sunday. Wesley Bryan from the state of South Carolina wins the RBC Heritage. Wow, what a rookie year this young man is off to. Meanwhile, Stephen Ames, it's been a while, but he was simply better than everybody else. He wins the Mitsubishi Electric Classic, and he did it in emphatic style. Of course, Bernard Langer was the guy who was pushing him, or at least trying to. And then finally, Lydia Ko, as we mentioned just off the top, she splits with caddy Gary Matthews. And this is after just 9 events together. This is not the first, not likely to be the last. She's not a truculent person. She's an affable, likable, delightful young lady. But Paige, let me start with you. Is this odd that she has had so much transition of the person who's been carrying her bag in her young career?
Yes and no. Her rookie year, obviously, she had a tremendous amount of change. I think she said it was 9 caddies her rookie season. But it does take time to find the right caddy. But then she found Jason Hamilton, and she was with him for about 2 years before now being with Gary and now exiting again. So what I read into it is that she knows what she wants out of a caddy, and she's searching to try to find that right person to stand next to her all day.
I read into it that she doesn't know what she wants to do. Okay? Maybe she's searching for something that's not there. But what concerns me, too, is eventually you're going to run out of caddies. Everyone, of course, wants to caddy for the #1 player in the world. But at some point, you're not going to leave. If you're a caddy, you're not going to leave your player to go be with this person knowing this might last a week or 2 or 3. Then I have to go crawling back to my old bag and say, please take me back because I left you. It's a tough thing.
But it is enticing. She is the #1 player in the world. She's so productive. It's a heck of a gig to get it, but I understand your reservation because you know your job security if you look at her history. Now, her recent results would suggest, well, gosh, I mean, okay, she had a miscut. The sky's falling. It happens like once every year and a half.
Yeah, but look at the rest of the finish that she's had. 5 out of her last 6 events in the top 11. And this is through the transition. This is through the chaotic time of changing coaches, changing clubs. So, and obviously in some ways unhappy with who was on the bag. So I'm not worried about Lydia Ko long term because I know she can deal with this kind of change. And as far as your point, Robert, goes, there's quite a bit of change within caddies on the LPGA Tour. So usually she's not necessarily taking a caddy from another player. They've been let go, they're available, and she takes them. And you and I know how important the caddy-player relationship is. It's like a marriage. In a lot of ways, you're seeing that person more than your spouse, and it's an incredibly difficult dynamic in a lot of ways between a man and a woman. And in her case, a significant age gap.
Yeah, what was the most important thing you wanted and needed from a caddy?
Well, it's the same thing. She said it's like a marriage. That means you're spending so much time together that, yes, you have to trust that they do their job right. They add the numbers up and all that, tell you what is the right thing at the right time. But you have to get along with them as people. You have to be friends and friendly. I mean, maybe not hang out off the course, but you have to show up and be, hey, good to see you again today, and not like, oh, no, not you again.
Yeah, you have to want to be together. And I always said, I want a caddy that I can go have a beer with.
Mm-hmm. Positive energy. I mean, you got to feel like you're getting that. You're the one who's performing, but they're the one who's right alongside. Now let's transition back over to the PGA Tour and what happened down in the low country of South Carolina. He's from the state. Nobody in the history of this event who's a native of South Carolina has done this, but here's Wesley Bryan. He had birdied 4, 5, 6. Paige, he does it again on 7?
Yeah, it was a nice little stretch in here, and it was an interesting stretch because other players in front of him were starting to falter.
And let's get to just that. Robert Graham Gillette, who's a very good ball striker. When you see this action and reaction, you know this is bad.
This is bad. It's going left, and it could catch a break, catch a tree, and not do that. And if you watch the telecast, you know it went from ugly to uglier from this point. He started chunking his chips and went on to make a triple.
He's still finishing a tied for 6, but you're right, made that triple. What do you make of this particular grip on the putter from Miley Schneider-Jans?
I mentioned earlier, I think if you met the queen, that's how you're supposed to shake her hand, with the right hand barely on, all daintily. And I don't know. Obviously, he wants no right hand in his putting stroke. The next step would just be to take it off completely and putt one-handed.
Wow. Well, he would make bogey, drop a shot back. Back to Wesley Bryan here, his third on the 15th. Paige keeps it below the hole.
Well, and he didn't seem to falter. It was a level of confidence as he was playing. And Luke Donald, another player that managed to make a charge late.
He did. He needed this. He knew he needed it, and it just dives left, Robert.
Well, a great putt. And Luke Donald, I mean, he's looking forward to this event next year already. He is just a money-making machine at Hilton Head.
Yeah, he's made $3.7 million at that event alone. Wesley Bryan, a little bit over 1.5 feet. And there it is. He knows he's got it. There were players behind him, but theoretically and mathematically, it was virtually impossible that they would have caught him. And he gets a nice congratulations from Ian Poulter, who also had an eventful, certainly an eventful time himself. But Wesley Bryan, he gets it done. He wins for the first time on the PGA Tour as a rookie. This is his 4th top 10 in his last 6 starts. So his form has been outstanding. And here's what he had to say, and this is true honesty from a young man getting into the winner's circle for the first time.
You know, honestly, I wasn't nervous at all day. And then number 17, I got up and honestly, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. And I was like, well, shoot, I guess this is what nervous feels like. And
there you go. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
So that's how it went down.
Loved the Jim Nantz cringe when he heard that phrase. How about the state of South Carolina? Since the beginning of 2016, Coastal Carolina wins the College World Series. Clemson wins the national championship. South Carolina's women's team won the national championship. Their men's team got to the Final Four. But let's roll on. Golf specific. Dustin Johnson won a U.S. Open. He's world number 1. Wesley Bryan from the same high school as Dustin Johnson, first player from the state to win the Heritage in tournament history. And oh, by the way, and most importantly, yes, Charlie Reimer inducted into the South Carolina Golf Hall of Fame.
How did that make this graphic?
How did it make it?
Scraping the bottom of the barrel here, guys.
Charlie's not here to defend himself.
And you know what? That Charlie's induction was, I believe, the first of all these, or the announcement. He lit the match on all this.
He did, on the powder keg of South Carolina sports. Charlie Reimer is the fuse on the powder keg of South Carolina sports.
He is indeed. All right, let's really get to the guy who won yesterday, and that's Wesley Bryan. Robert, for someone who's won on the PGA Tour, it means the world to you. It's what you dream about. But this young man's dreams were going in a circuitous route. The sense of accomplishment for what he's done at 27 and how he's gotten here.
I love how he's gotten here. In today's day and age of social media, he started his career on social media. And one thing that stood out to me last season when he won on the web.com for the first time, I go, well, maybe a fluke. He won, he's solid. Then he wins again, and he wins again. And then he gets on tour and he wins. This guy was a trick shot artist. How do you spend all the time honing your trick shot game and still be a great golfer honing that? I mean, it's like he's got 28 hours in his day instead of 24 like the rest of us. But he is legit. Going to be around a while, and with a putting stroke like his, like the one we see here, he's going to be dangerous.
How about the transition he's made, as he just alluded to? He's a trick shot artist.
Right. The transition isn't as mind-boggling to me as what Robert mentioned as far as the level of practice and work and effort and time that it would have taken to get to the level he was at in the trick shot world. And then to still have the time and energy to hone his actual golf game to get to the level that he's at right now. That, to me, is actually what's most interesting. He must not sleep or do anything other than be at the golf course. But it says a lot about who he is, his work ethic, what it means. The fact that he doesn't let that label, which we still continue to label him, get in the way of excellent results.
No, it doesn't. I've been around him in a couple of situations, at a charity event, Brad and Billy's event up in the state of Rhode Island, at a corporate event out on the Monterey Peninsula. Here's the thing about him. He really is a nice young man, and he has a passion for golf. He and his brother had carved out a little niche. They were making a modest income, going to events, doing these trick shots that were very impressive, but clearly he had a desire beyond just being somebody who was a novelty act. He's a winner. He's a winner on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, that's a new great label on top of trick shot artist and Battlefield promotion on web.com. PGA Tour winner it's something that he will remember for the rest of his life. It's a source of such pride to me, and I wake up still and like, was that a dream? It was so long ago, but I got one win, and that was what I dreamt of my whole life, and I know the same thing for him.
Yeah, and winning breeds winning. Like you mentioned, those 3 wins on the web.com, that is a rare feat. Now, how did he celebrate? Oh, come on, he's a modest guy. A little Taco Bell. How you feeling this morning, Robert? Wesley, I mean, I'm sure you're feeling pretty good, but with that tartan jacket, I don't know if a tartan jacket has ever walked into a Taco Bell page. What do you think?
I doubt it.
Poll question?
I doubt it. It wouldn't have been my first choice, but hey, whatever is open after all those post-round interviews. But now we will watch and learn exactly what went down on that Sunday at RBC. We'll start with the winner, Wesley Ryan. What can we learn from his putting? We already know that it's one of the best.
I did mention earlier that he led the web.com last year in putting, tremendous putter. And let's show you right here before we even roll it why he is a great putter. One good reason. He is prepped for success. What I mean by that is his eyes are above the ball. His hands are directly below his shoulders. His knees, feet, forearms, everything is aligned perfectly square. He has eliminated any real possibilities of bad mistakes before he even takes it away. And let's see what happens once we rolls it. Look, everything is just really textbook perfect and, like I said, prepped for success.
Well, you don't have to counteract anything if you got it all set up all correct. So moving on to Ollie Schneider-Jans, and what I want you to take a look at is this green and exactly where that hole location is. You can tell it's in the front, and there's a little peninsula. A lot of people get tied up into that front part of the green and the pin, and that's where they want to land it because they want to try to keep it below the hole. In certain instances, it's actually better to take the error out by going long. So go ahead and roll this, and you'll see the fat part of the green is actually past the hole. So most of the players yesterday were trying to hit it beyond the hole, and then if you got some spin back, that's great. But that's where the width of the green is. That's where you're going to have less room for error and put yourself in a better position.
That's great, because honestly, at his age, I saw pin and that's it, even on tour, and I cost myself a lot of issues. Speaking of costing yourself a lot of shots, Duffner putted not so good, and that's putting it very nicely yesterday. And what he does is he tends to get quick, nervy. So this is a good thing for him. Maybe he can learn from this and learn from his mistakes, and it's a good idea for you guys at home. Learn from your mistakes. When you have a bad round, what do? Watch Duffner. He gets short, quick, cannot square the putter face open, jabby stroke. So he can look back at this, say, this is my tendency. Next time he's in contention, I'm going to smooth it out. I'm going to do something a little different. I'm not going to do what I know I tend to do, and that's drop the putter like that.
It's not like drop the mic. The drop the putter was not a good thing.
No, it's kind of the opposite of dropping the mic.
All right, moving on to Luke Donald. Found himself in a little bit of trouble, but we need to go over punch shots and chip out shots because it happens in golf. So go ahead and roll this. I want you to keep an eye on his turn because we're going to take a closer look of this in slow motion. I think the tendency, speaking of knowing your tendencies, is to get armsy, not taking into account that the body is still what moves the golf shot even though it's a shorter shot. So watch the connection between the hands and the chest. Look at how that shoulder turn, he's almost to 90 degrees right there, just on this little swing. And then again, on the way through, the movement is coming from the entire upper body. It's not hands, it's not arms, it's the body that's moving that club. So a lot of times on punch shots, we tend to get a little bit armsy, important to continue to use your whole body.
It's almost like he had it up in his chest and he hit it like that with his body.
A good little drill. Well, a lot more reaction from RBC Heritage coming up later in the show. For now, Gary, what's coming up?
I'll tell you what's coming up. Somebody who just simply won't go away. The last person to win in terms of being the oldest player to win was her a couple of years ago. She's done it again, and she had to try to do that, and I don't think that we're going to reenact that at all. I don't think she wants a mulligan, doesn't need one, but we will have some Monday mulligans. He looked very cash traveling through that. It's a Monday, it's Morning Drive.